Hello and welcome to the Blueskills training program. My name is Isaac Gimberson and I'm your coach on this program. And in today's class, we're going to be talking about critical thinking. I'll ask you a few questions. Do you struggle to make decisions? Do you struggle to solve problems? Are you unable to get out of situations or out of challenges without help? It is most likely that you lack critical thinking skills. So what is critical thinking? Critical thinking is the ability to analyze information objectively and to make reasoned conclusions or judgments. Okay? It involves the evaluation of sources such as data, evidence, observation, all right, to be able to come to conclusions on decisions. So critical thinking is very important if you must succeed in business and if you must succeed at a workplace or in your career, all right? And critical thinking requires you to be able to look at different perspectives about a particular issue. It requires you to ask questions: why, what, where, when, how. These are the questions that you must ask concerning a situation or an information, and the answers that you get will now be what you will use to form your judgment or your conclusion about a situation. Inability to answer these questions makes that you are going to make uninformed decisions, and usually every decision has what? Consequences. So critical thinking is basically your ability to weigh consequences, advantages, disadvantages, and ask questions around them to be able to come to conclusion or to be able to make a judgment. So Albert Einstein said something. He said, if something looks wrong, then it's probably worth finding out why. So you're not a critical thinker if you just take things as they are or things as they come to you. Critical thinking requires you to always ask questions. Why this? Why that? And Albert Einstein, which is one of the most intelligent men that have lived on the earth, has said that one of the keys to critical thinking is that if you find out that something looks wrong or sounds wrong, he says it is worth for you to ask what? To ask why. Therefore, it's not enough for you to just ask, it's not enough for you to just assume things. It's important for you to ask why. And then the answers you get from asking why is what informs your judgment and informs your decision. This is what makes you a critical thinker. Now, advantages of having critical thinking skills. There are 4 key advantages I'm going to be mentioning for the sake of this class for having critical thinking skills. And the first is what? It is key to success in business and in career. Every one of you taking this training right now is either a business person or a career person or in between. But whichever one you are, as long as you want to succeed in whatever field that you are, critical thinking skills is very, very important. The second point I'd like to make is what? Improved self-reliance. Many times if you're not a critical thinker, you're going to have to depend on people to think for you, to make decisions for you. But you being a critical thinker makes that you are self-reliant. If you face a challenge, you solve it yourself. If you face a problem, you're able to find the solutions by yourself. So critical thinking makes that you're less dependent on people and you become more self-reliant. The third advantage of critical thinking skills is what? Improved relationships. Everybody wants to be around a problem solver. Everybody wants to be around somebody who seems to know what they are doing. And one of the things that puts you in that position is what? Is critical thinking skills. And then finally, it enhances ideas and creativity. If you want to improve in your ability to have ideas, if you want to improve in your creativity, then you have to be able to improve your skills in critical thinking. If you involve yourself in critical thinking or you are able to improve your critical thinking skills, you find out that you get more creative. You're able to have more ideas, worthwhile ideas, and you're able to become more creative. Steps in critical thinking. In this section, I'm going to be taking you on the step-by-step method of becoming a critical thinker. As a critical thinker, the first thing you have to do is observation. Okay, you have to observe the situation. If something had happened, you observe the situation. If there's an information that you are receiving, you have to first of all listen, because the first thing you need to do is to be able to gather data, is to understand the situation, understand the challenge at hand. So the first thing is what? Observation. This is the process of paying attention to a particular thing or to a particular situation. All right. The second step in developing critical thinking skills is what? Analysis. Okay, this is the place where you begin to ask the questions: how, why. Okay, so if you're able to ask these questions, what you're doing is that you're analyzing the situation. Why did such a thing happen? So let's take an example. Let's say you failed an exam. The first thing you have to find out is what? Observe. Okay, that's where you find out that you have failed an exam. Your observation brings you to the knowledge of the fact that you have failed an exam. The second thing is analysis. Analysis is where you now start to ask why. Why did I fail that particular exam? Is it that I did not study enough? Is it that I wasn't writing fast in the exam, or I wasn't answering the questions fast? What exactly? So when you begin to ask this question, what happens is that you begin to get answers. That is the analysis stage. The third stage is what? Conclusion. After analysis, you will eventually come to a correct answer or a conclusion on why that particular situation has happened. For example, in the question of why you failed exam, your inference will now be, after considering the different options, your inference will now be based on your findings from the analysis level. So the inference or the conclusion is usually the judgment that you draw out of the different considerations that you have considered in the analysis stage. Okay, the next point is what? Communication. After you have been able to analyze and conclude, you must be able to communicate your finding, okay, either to yourself or communicate it to the people who are expecting you to actually bring a solution to a particular problem. And then finally, problem solving. Problem solving stage of critical thinking is basically you now applying the result of your conclusion or the result of your finding to solve that problem. So let's say, for example, in the place where you failed an exam and you later found out that it was because you did not prepare enough, then your problem solving will now be that when the next exam is coming, right, what you will do is you will prepare better. Okay, you spend more time reading, or you try to get the correct materials to read for that exam. All of this will be informed because you have taken the time to ask questions and to think critically about the situation. So there are a few things I would like you to understand about the subject of critical thinking. One of them is that to be a critical thinker, you must have curiosity. You must be somebody who asks questions. Okay, so I wrote here, I said curiosity is a hallmark of critical thinking. To be a critical thinker, you must actively ask questions and seek deeper understanding. You cannot engage in critical thinking, or you can't call yourself a critical thinker if you're not somebody who questions things. Okay, even if things have existed for a very long time, when you come in and you are faced by that situation, you must ask questions. This is what births innovations. This is what births ideas. This is what births the things that you see today that are changing the world. It is because people have asked questions on the normal way of doing things. So for you to be a critical thinker, it is very important that you have curiosity. Secondly, for you to be a critical thinker, you must be open-minded. Okay, there are people that once you ask them a particular thing, or they are faced with a question, or they are faced with a challenge, the first thing that comes to mind is how it has always been done. But the critical thinker must be open-minded to the fact that there are other ways of doing that particular thing, or there are other ways of getting results or getting solutions to a problem. The third point that you must note about critical thinking is that critical thinkers evaluate and make conclusions based on what? Evidence. Okay, not assumptions. You don't assume. A critical thinker is always looking for evidence, right? They are always looking for facts. They are always looking for data, and then decisions are usually drawn, or your final conclusions are drawn out of evidence, out of facts, and out of what? Out of data that is received. So 3 things that you must note as a critical thinker. Number 1 is curiosity. Number 2 is that you must be open-minded. And number 3, you always make your conclusion based on facts and based on data. How to develop your critical thinking skills. Number 1 is to engage in active learning. You must be somebody that is always drawn to what? Gathering of information, gathering of data. One who is committed to learning, one who is always seeking to ask questions and seeking to understand things. That's the first thing that helps you to become a critical thinker. The second is what? Read widely. Reading widely gives you access to more information. And when you have more information, you're able to make more informed decisions. Okay? So have a habit of reading widely. Read things in entertainment, read things in politics, read things in tech and engineering and all of that. Just make sure you have a wide range of knowledge so that when you're faced with a particular challenge, you can draw from all of this data and information that you have previously gathered, and you're able to draw or you're able to come to a conclusion on matters. Next is what? Practice problem solving. A lot of people, the moment they are faced with challenges, they run away or they try to avoid it. Always make sure that you're somebody who goes after problems. When there's a problem, be the first to jump on it and try to find a solution. Practicing that makes you someone who constantly is thinking critically. Okay? Then finally, practice thinking outside the box. We live in a time where people, when everybody goes left, people are thinking left. When everybody goes right, people are thinking right? But a critical thinker is always asking the questions, why are people going left? Why are people going right? And the answers that he gets from the question he asks is what makes him make his decision. So it doesn't matter if everybody is going left. A critical thinker will first of all analyze the situation, and if he finds out that going right is more advantageous, it doesn't matter where everybody has gone, he's going to go the other way. So critical thinkers think outside the box. So I'm going to round up this class by telling you the importance of critical thinking to decision making. Okay? It is said that what? Decision decides destiny. So the decisions you're making today is deciding a lot about your future. So one of the key things that will help you to become a good decision maker is to become a critical thinker. So the importance of critical thinking to decision making. Number 1, it is that critical thinking helps you to think independently. You don't have to depend on people to think, people to make decisions before you follow. It gives you the ability to think independently. And when you think independently, you're able to make decisions independently. Secondly, critical thinking allows you to weigh choices and options and then consequences, and then you can make better decisions based on all of this. All right. So this brings us to the end of today's class on critical thinking. But as we close after this training, I want you to take out 1 minute and reflect on how critical thinking affects your future, affects your business, and affects your career. If you become a better critical thinker, how will this affect your business? If you become a better critical thinker, how can this affect your career? If you become a better critical thinker, how can this affect your future? Thank you, and see you in the next class.